Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I've got kind of a gameplay slash review hybrid video for you for each of the Senrai Maidens packs. That's right, we have the M1A1HC Senrai Maiden, the Leopard 2A4M Senrai Maiden, and of course, finally, the T-80U-E1 Senrai Maiden. And you might be wondering to yourself, what's the big difference between these and the standard premium versions of them? Well, quite honestly, not too much. You get yourself a really cool camouflage, in my opinion. Kind of cheesy. I'm not a big fan of the name on it, but I like the overall designs of the camo. Sometimes you get some decoration. As you can see here, there's a teddy bear on that, and there's a little camo net on the back there. Of course, a unique camo as well, and with this, you also have unique camo and a little bit of decoration as well. Otherwise, they're pretty much going to be about the same as the premium version of it. Interestingly, the M1A1HC and M1A1 clickbait are a little bit worse than the standard M1A1HC in that this has access to the M908, whereas the HC clickbait and the Senrai Maidens both lack that entirely. But that's pretty much going to be about it. So that being said, let's get into a few matches here. I'll probably do like one match with each of these, maybe two, we'll see how it goes, but we'll do one match with each of these, and I'll just kind of give you my general feel for each of these vehicles, kind of go over some of their strengths and weaknesses if possible, and also bear in mind I do have full reviews on each of these premium vehicles, so M1A1 clickbait, the German one, the 2A4M, and also of course the T-80U-E1. I have all of those reviews, just the standard versions of them, the standard premiums, which again are essentially equal to the Senrai Maidens versions. So as I said, let's get into a few matches and see how we do. So just kind of starting this one off here, I feel like the M1A1HC Senrai Maidens probably has the weakest camo of each of these vehicles. Now, I don't really necessarily think that it's bad by any means. I think it's actually quite a nice camo, but you know, if I'm going to be stuck with like a big cape on the side of it, I would prefer it to look a little bit more comprehensive, like stand out a touch more than what it currently is, because quite honestly, it just, I don't know, like the Leopard 2A4M, for example, is better. The T-80U-E1 Senrai Maidens also has a better camo. Just maybe like they're a bit more active might be a good way to put it, right? So that said, we're going to go ahead and move up here. So just initially, some things to say about this vehicle. Obviously, this thing is very fast. One of the faster vehicles in game, one of the faster MBTs at the very least. This is just, I mean, it's so incredibly quick. We're going to try to cap the point. Looks like we got some enemy over here to my left. I'm just going to go in for it. Oh, good. I should be at an advantage here with a better reload rate. And I was. But we do have some other enemy here. That was a Leopard 2A4M. Oh, perfect. Got the commander and fuel tank. And his cannon is gone. We have ourselves the kill. Very nice. So, in general, the thing with the M1A1HC, again, being that this is your standard M1A1HC, it's got an excellent armament. You're looking at the M829A2 shell with 629 millimeters of armor pen at most, and up to 524 at 500 meters and at 30 degrees, which is really, really nice. You know, it only has the Gen 1 thermals, if I'm not, yeah, Gen 1 thermals, not very clear, which really sucks in my opinion. But you also have a very nice but pretty standard amount of gunner's optics zoom, and you have a down to a 5-second reload if you get this crew fully aced. Additionally, you can have up to a 40 degree per second turret traverse rate, which is just phenomenal. You know, like it's just, there's so many great things about this vehicle. Personally, again, I feel like the Leopard 2A4M is a touch better. Just in general, but that doesn't mean that this is a bad vehicle by any means. And unfortunately here, being that we do have Gen 1 thermals, it is really just a pain to use these things, but it is what it is. Now, insofar as armor is concerned, the armor on this vehicle is also quite decent-ish, but not really nearly as good as, like, the legendary Abrams, you know, name might have you believe, right? So this doesn't get depleted uranium sheets, if I'm not mistaken, like armor. It's just kind of a very typical or mediocre level of armor, unfortunately. So you have an enemy over there, probably coming across, hopefully, if was coming across. Got the horizontal turret drive. Go in for the kill. We got the track. Unfortunately, I did not get that kill, and we are going to get it now. No, we are not. This is crazy. Talk about post-pen damage, man. Wow. So, in general, I mean, like, I do like this as a vehicle. Again, this is going to be pretty much the same as, like, your standard M1A1HC, meaning that it's more or less kind of good. It does have this really... I should really actually shut that off, by the way. So, it does have the IR Spotlight, which is just... or the IRCM, which is not very good. Like, that's going to make you stand out on thermals, especially at night, like crazy. It is just an insane amount. It's like putting a flashlight on when you're trying to stay hidden. It is just crazy. So it's not really something that you want to keep active all the time, but it does also help to protect against lower level ATGM. So some, like, poor guidance version ATGM. Ugh, ugly, ugly, ugly. Hopefully he doesn't see me, and we got ourselves the engine track and radiator. We're going to move up now, and is that a Japanese tank? Doesn't matter. Leopard 2A6. Got ourselves a third kill. Very nice, but the armor on this thing, as I was saying before, not really all so hot. That's kind of like the biggest issue with this vehicle, because a lot of people, I feel, they probably go into owning an M1A1, right? It doesn't really matter any M1A1, it's just really any of them. And they'll just kind of go into it thinking like, hey, this vehicle has to be great, right? Like, it's got to have great armor protection. And the truth is not really that simple. It can, like, the turret cheeks are really, really nice. But when it comes to pretty much anything else, like the upper hull, the upper glacis rather, the lower glacis especially, you're looking at pretty mediocre armor. It's just not all that great. So really, when it comes down to it, and again, I have full reviews on each of these vehicles, but when it comes down to it, I would say the armament, just from memory and also from playing it now, it's probably like a 7 out of 10, maybe even a little bit better. 7.5 out of 10. Again, I'd have to kind of sit down and look at my old scores and kind of reevaluate those, but I do have, again, scores on my review. But also, when it comes to mobility, probably like a 7 out of 10, and survivability, probably like a 4.5 to 5 out of 10. It's not bad when it comes to survivability. It does have 16 smoke grenades, which is awesome. Okay, we have ourselves an enemy. Ooh, got the engine and fuel tank. He is still flying. Got the kill. Very nice. Leopard 2PL. 5 kills. Not bad. And so, yeah, I mean, in general, I like this tank a lot. Again, it's pretty much just the standard M1A1HC, but it is the Senrai Maidens edition, and in theory, ooh, that would have been cool, right? In theory, it's the best version because it does come with the camo, which means that, you know, this comes with something that the other one doesn't come with. Plus, it comes with the title and all that. So, I mean, yeah, you can get that. But also, the standard M1A1HC clickbait, the premium, that comes with different camos that you can get through the marketplace. So, I mean, if you're kind of a marketplace guy, hey, you know what? That might be worth it, too. I don't know if marketplace skins are going to be developed for these. They very well might not be, but in theory, these are also permanently available vehicles, so maybe they will in the future. But we're going to go ahead and see if we can go cap this base one more time. Probably won't be able to. And look at that. I am able to cap the base just in time. Really, really nice, because this thing has such great mobility. So we currently have 5 kills, 1 assist, 2 base caps, and no deaths. I'm just going to get one more shell loaded in. And then we're going to move up and see if we can take some pot shots at the guy on C. But in general, yeah, I mean, I'm really quite impressed with this vehicle. But again, it's a known quantity. This vehicle is already in-game as the M1A1HC clickbait. So again, there's just not really anything different about it. Oh, we have a Leclerc. Got the kill. And someone else over here got the second kill. Very nice. 7 kills now. We are doing very well. I'm gonna still move on to the C point. Oh wow, I'm getting close to a nuke here. I'm getting really close to a nuke. Holy jeebers. This is something else, huh? I was not expecting this. A nuke is not something I ever really expect, but I only have four shells left, 4 APF SDS, which is a problem. Probably should have stayed back and reloaded more shells, but it is what it is, right? So we're going to move up, try to flank on the lower portion of the C point, if I can help it. Looks like there's some enemies over there. I might be able to take him out with an APF, or with a Heat FS, if I'm lucky. But that would require me to fire an APF SDS anyways, so... so close to getting a nuke, 100 points away! Oh no. Well, no biggie. We have done very well, and that's really all I could ask. Because, at the end of the day, I feel like there's someone over here. Maybe I'm just kind of, you know, my heart rate's going a little bit high right now. Because we are getting kind of close to nuke territory. Not that I feel like I'd be able to actually drop it in time. But there are still a good amount of enemies left. So, in theory, I could get an SPAA kill or something. Oh boy! Oh boy! Boy! Oh no! So close! Oh, we have ourselves the nuke! I don't even care that I just kind of planted myself right there in the yard. If I didn't, like, go to protect myself. Oh, man! I never would have guessed. This is, what, my second match with the Senrai Maidens. With any of them. Any of them. My first match was a dud with the M1A1HC, and now we have a nuke. Holy guacamole. Wow, am I going to be able to make it on time? I don't know. We're going to go ahead and just do oh, jeez. Do wing sweep all the way back. You know what? I'm not even going to bother with that. We have ourselves 90 chaff, a bunch of maw. Okay, we are trying to get over the battlefield. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, oh, we dropped it, we dropped it! We dropped it! We got the nuke! Oh my goodness! Anyways, M1A1HC Senai Maiden, nuke proven, hell yeah. So that said, let's get into Leopard 2A4M. I doubt we're going to do as well as I just did there, but hey, you know what? What a good way to start this video. Woof! Good match. So of course, here we are with the Leopard 2A4M Elsa edition, and some interesting things to note here. I did remove the slat armor that you would normally see on the back here. Just because that weighs a lot. It weighs a few extra tons. I also reduced or removed the mine armor as well, because that also weighs just so much, and it's unnecessary armor in my opinion. Normally that would cover the bottom, but until mines are added to War Thunder, proper mines, I'm not just saying like the ones that you can get from like the BTD destroyer, yeah, I'm not really going to worry about it too much, so removing that seems like the best option. Now, otherwise, this thing is pretty damn quick. And, oh, also, fun fact. So, the operator country on this is Germany, whereas the Leopard 2A4M can is obviously, that one is obviously Canada. So, this is a different operator country, despite the fact that, you know, I'm going to go in, I'm going to be a little brave here. Got the commander breach. Yes! Or, cannon breach. That's what we're looking for. Okay, we got that kill. Hopefully we can get a third kill here. Always take out the guy with the active, or with the able gun. And we have ourselves 3 kills real quick. So, with that being said, this vehicle, in my opinion, is probably going to be about the most, it's the most I guess, the best overall, right? Or it's got, like, the overall qualities. So, what I mean by that specifically is that you have a vehicle in the 2A4M that has better armor and better mobility than the M1A1HC. Despite the fact that it has like 21 less horsepower, that is what it is. But if you remove the slat armor and the mine armor on the bottom, which, as I said before, I kind of find those to be unnecessary. They don't really help out too much. If you can remove those pieces of armor, I feel... Ooh! You should be able to do pretty well. We have ourselves 5 kills now, pretty quick. But those remove something like 4 or 5 tons of weight. So, I mean, in my opinion, just getting rid of them is probably the most prudent thing to do. You're going to increase your mobility without... Oh! Damn it, let's go ahead and respawn. But you're going to go ahead and increase your mobility without really getting rid of armor. Or, better said, without getting rid of usable armor. Because technically speaking, I mean, I guess it is usable. You will stop yourself from being, like, heat FS'd or something from the side, but that's pretty much it. That was ugly. So it's nothing really all too crazy. Okay, we have a Ricochet. That's a Chinese tank. Not a tank I want to go toe-to-toe with from the front. Hopefully it appears on the side there. No biggie. So we're just going to keep on moving on here. But in general, I do find this one to probably be about the easiest to use. Because, again, in my opinion, it does have better cheek armor. This does have similar cheek armor to what you'd find on the 2A5. You also have yourself better... I think slightly better upper glacis armor, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, compared to the M1A1HC. So you are getting slightly better armor overall. Nothing necessarily too substantial, but it does make somewhat of a difference. Uh-oh. It does make somewhat of a difference. I'm going to go ahead and hide there and just kind of go into artillery mode. But the big difference here between this and the HC, so even though this does have slightly better armor mobility, is that this doesn't have as good of armament. So you have the KEW shell as opposed to the M829A2, which the M829A2 is much better, or it's a bit better. I wouldn't say like a ton better than the KW, but it is noticeably better. It's a much higher BR shell that you can get to, so you're getting just a better overall shell with that. Because the KEW, you can get down to like as low as 10 or 10.3 BR vehicles with the M60A MBT, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the lowest BR vehicle that you can get it at. So, it's a much more advanced shell. Plus, you also get just a much better reload. I mean, a substantially better reload with this vehicle than you would get with the M1A1HC, rather. You get a much better reload with that than you get with this. And so even though it might not seem like a big difference, being a half second, it ends up being a big difference. Or not a half second, but like up to a second, rather. That is a big difference that you can get overall. Oh, this guy's still here. Not anymore. So it does end up being a big difference overall and can really make the difference when you're up close and personal with enemy tanks. So we have ourselves 7 kills thus far. Not bad. But in general, again, I mean, you get yourself much better survivability with this, or slightly better survivability, slightly better mobility, and even though, yeah, the armament isn't technically quite as good, it is still very good. You are still getting near 600 millimeters of armor pen, which is just, you know what, if I go over there, I feel like I'm gonna die. You still get up to around 600 millimeters of armor pen, which is really nice. You know, the KEW is not by any means a bad shell. And really, I'd say, like, the worst thing about this vehicle is the fact that, unfortunately, again, it has that lesser reload rate, which does suck. But otherwise, in general, I mean, it's got 2 out of 3 features, in my opinion, at least. Is that a tank? That is. It's got 2 out of 3 features in my opinion, that are really just better in the M1A1HC. Namely, the mobility and armament. Again, not a huge amount better, but probably just enough to make it, you know, more worthwhile in some people's opinions. Can I get that hit? No, I can get close, though. If he doesn't notice me, maybe I can get a... Nah, we're not gonna. I can just go ahead and... What's the call out for that? We have 4 and something. Doesn't really matter. I just kind of left myself open to that, even though I was close to a nuke. So with that said, again, I feel like the Leopard 2A4M Elsa is probably going to be the best overall of them. Again, it's got probably the best mobility of all those vehicles. And, you know, even though its armament isn't bad, it's probably got the second best armament of all of them. And it's also got very nice armor. So it's probably the best overall, although the more offensive vehicle to use, just because of its much better armament, is going to be the M1A1HC. So that being said, let's go ahead and get to the T-80U-E1 and see how we do. But not too bad. I mean, we had 9 kills and 1 base cap, 2 deaths. That death was kind of on me because I was just kind of there talking in the open. I probably should have hid, but that said, let's get into the final match. So here we are with the T-80U-E1, the Maria edition, as you can see here. And personally, actually, I think that this is probably might be the strongest camo of all of them. Although, of course, the Leopard 2A4M does make a strong case for that, but either way. So this is definitely the most mobile, at least forward mobile of each of these vehicles. We have an enemy out there right when I unzoom myself. But this is definitely the most forward mobile of all of these vehicles, which is nice, you know? I mean, it's not necessarily... It's not necessarily incredibly impressive, but it is definitely a nice little thing here. We're going to see... Can I kill him? I can, right behind me. So actually... This brings up a fun point to make. So, this vehicle has the ability to go over the rear end of it, right? And you can actually depress the cannon a bit behind it. Whereas other vehicles, you cannot. The Leopard 2A4M and the M1A1HC both do not have the ability to actually depress the cannon, or at least keep it more or less even with the vehicle behind it. Which is really, really crappy, and it definitely a very important point to make here. So we have ourselves an enemy out there. I'm going to see if I can help defend my buddy. If I can help him. Oh, he's dead. That's fun. We got ourselves a kill. A little bit high aimed from that laser rangefinder, but... Okay, he's dead. So, speaking of... Again, as I was saying before, and I record all this live... So, my apologies if it kind of seems a little disjointed. Again, I do have my full reviews if you guys want to check those out. Definitely, I would strongly consider doing so because it's a bit more flashy, I guess you could say. Not that my videos are flashy by any means, but it is a little bit more put together than this is. But that being said, this vehicle is definitely, it is the most forward mobile of all of those vehicles. So, it does have the best power to weight ratio. It does have the best top speed as well. You're getting around half horsepower per ton higher with the T-80U-E1 than you are getting with the Leopard 2A4M. And that's even if you remove all the, at least in my opinion, unnecessary armor that you find on the Leopard 2A4M, as well as, you know, of course, the M1A1HC, which doesn't have any removable armor, as far as I remember at least. So even if, especially if you keep those removable armor things on the Leopard 2A4M, this actually, the T-80U-E1 actually beats it a lot more than it otherwise would. So it's actually a pretty decently quicker vehicle. Now, as I think I was saying before, when it comes to this vehicle, it does have a much worse reverse speed. Like, noticeably worse. You're getting an 11 km/h reverse speed. That's it. Like, that's terrible. The Leopard 2A4M, I think, has 33 or 34, whereas the M1A1HC is 38 km/h. So even though the forward speed of the T-80U-E1 is noticeably, or not much noticeably, but it is slightly better, you're not really getting too much for it. But you are getting a much worse reverse speed. Now, in my opinion, where this vehicle shines is going to be in its armor. At least when you have the pure, like when you have the ERA on this vehicle, the T-80U-E1, you are getting better armor than you get on the other vehicles. Once you get rid of the ERA, however, the armor is a bit worse, again, in my opinion. Because pretty much when it comes to the 2A4M as well as the M1A1HC, you can more or less kind of shoot right through the upper glacis more so the lower glacis of those vehicles pretty easily. And yeah, you can still shoot through the lower glacis of this vehicle pretty easily. And no, it doesn't have relic armor, but it does have contact 5, which is decent. You know, it still gets the job done. Even versus kinetic projectiles like APF SDS, it's still not all that bad. So it's a decent enough plate type of armor, rather. So it's not all too bad. And oh man, there's a lot of enemies over there. Or not. We have a bad network connection. Hopefully that doesn't last. But in short, you are, for the most part, getting better armor. Now, when it comes to survivability, one could make an argument otherwise, because the 2A4M as well as the M1A1HC, they don't have ERA. They just have composites, which mean they're pretty much unlimited use. Doesn't matter how often you shoot them, they are still going to... Okay, I want to shoot this guy as he comes through if I can. Okay, I missed him. Doesn't really matter too much. But the M1A1HC and the 2A4M, they both have composite armor, which is quite important in my opinion. We're going to see if we can shoot this guy. Shot a little bit. Oh, you know what? I do have my Time Fuse HE shell, so if he comes back around, I'll shoot him. We do have an enemy over here just looking at me. I'm going to try to distract him a little bit by firing off some smoke grenades there. And then coming around and destroying him if I can. Okay, we got the commander and FCS. Not bad. So we have ourselves 3 kills, 3 assists. But in general, I would say the armor on this vehicle, so long as you have the ERA, is a bit superior to what you'd find on the Leopard 2A4M and the M1A1HC. Ooh, I was going to try to get a shot on him. But it is a touch better. Now, when it comes to survivability, one could definitely make an argument otherwise. So, this vehicle has a gigantic, absolutely gigantic ammo rack, which is just, I mean, it's killer. Can I get that hit? No, I'm not. But I do have the Time Fuse HE. I'm just kind of trying to fire a little bit over to the side there. Maybe I can get a hit on him. It's difficult to be able to make these predictions here, but hopefully that's a hit. Okay, we didn't get a hit. That's fine. Can this fire long range? Oh, we got severe damage. Perfect. That's all I really care about. So we got ourselves the kill on that. So that said, not too bad. I mean, this does have the most versatile armament when it comes to air-to-air, as you could probably see right here. It's not necessarily, like, amazing, but it is more versatile than the other ones. Because you do have the Time Fuse HE, you also have the 9M1, 19M1, which is nice. But you also have the worst reload rate of all of them. But the thing is, it's still a guaranteed reload rate, which is not something that you could say about the other ones. So this has an autoloader with a 6.5 second reload rate, which is nice, you know? I mean, it's not fantastic, but it's definitely feasible. It's definitely a doable level of whatchamacallit, of reload, and it's not going to necessarily screw you over. But if you're fighting a fully crewed M1A1HC, it's going to beat this tank any day of the week, close range, because it has the better APF SDS. This only has 532 millimeters of armor pen at most. Not very good. It does have higher, it does have a nice and higher, shoot. Well, that sucks. I have to go get more ammo anyways. But it does have a higher muzzle velocity compared to the other M1A1s or the other APF SDS. However, it does have much lower penetration, even compared to the KEW on the 2A4M. So in general, and also the M1A1 and the Leopard 2A4, they both have a much better... well, you could argue, again, much better level of survivability because they have blowout panels, which is not something that this vehicle has. So, I mean, it is very important to note, you know? I mean, you're not getting quite everything with this vehicle. Just because you have better armor doesn't necessarily mean that you have better survivability. So, as I said, I'm just going to kind of finish up the video with a quick summation. So with that said, just to kind of finish things off here, when it comes to the T-80U-E1, again, I feel that this vehicle is probably going to be the best when it comes to its armor, so long as its ERA is still intact. It still has very nice cheek armor. It is a bit lower than the other vehicles. It's a little bit smaller than the other vehicles, but again, survivability is a bit of an issue with it because it has the gigantic ammo rack at the base of the turret, which is just absolutely ridiculously huge, and you will get ammo racked like no one's business so long as they pretty much shoot anywhere but the front of this tank. And it only has a 3-man crew as well, so even if you don't get ammo racked somehow, you only have 3 crew members, so it's going to be kind of a bit of a pain in the butt. Plus, the fact is, this does have the weakest armament, so it does have the weakest cannon. It does have the most versatile armament, one could say, but it also only has a -5 to +15 cannon guidance. So whereas the M1A1HC, -10 to +20, and the 2A4M, -9 to +20. Now, the big difference here is that the T-80U-E1 is able to kind of look a little bit more over the side and the rear of it without having to kind of elevate its cannon, whereas if you look at the 2A4M, it has the kind of raised engine deck as well as a little bit when it comes to the M1A1HC. So yeah, the T-80U-E1 for the most part is a little bit worse when it comes to armament. Its armament is the most versatile of all these vehicles, mainly in that it has the ATGM, plus it has the time fuse HE, whereas the Leopard 2A4M and the M1A1HC lack those entirely, but it does also have the autoloader, which some people might find good, some people might not find good, but you're going to be getting yourself, for the most part, a lesser rate of fire with this vehicle, so long as you at least expert the other 2 vehicles. Actually, in fact, you probably barely even need to have much crew. You don't even need to expert the M1A1HC. You just need to have decent crew skill anyways. So, I mean, in general, again, the T-80U-E1, it might be the weakest. I mean, it's really difficult to say. It does have those Gen 2, Gen 3 thermals, but, like, I probably like this vehicle maybe the most just because it has that armor, which allows you to survive more shots than the other ones, and it is technically a little bit more mobile moving forward, and its reverse speed isn't the absolute worst, even though it is still poor at this BR. So, in general, what I'm going to say here is probably the best overall is going to be the Leopard 2A4M. If you want armament and, you know, decent enough mobility or good mobility, not necessarily the best, the M1A1HC is going to be the best. And if you're just looking for that first stage of survivability, T-80U-E1 is probably going to be a little bit better than the M1A1HC. But I'd probably say the Leopard 2A4M is the most well-balanced, being that it combines good armament, pretty good armor, and really nice mobility, whereas the M1A1HC really has nice cheek armor, not great hull armor, but phenomenal armament in that it has the M829 APF SDS and excellent reload rate. But again, if you want that first level survivability, again, just kind of like so that the shell doesn't get into the front of the tank, T-80U-E1 does the job just fine. But my opinion, 2A4M is probably what you're going to want to get, probably followed by the M1A1HC, although it's kind of interchangeable, and then finally the T-80U-E1 Maria Edition. So as I said, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. I'm interested to see your opinions. Again, I do have reviews on each of these vehicles, so if you guys want, definitely check them out. But either way, thanks again, and I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.